Good morning and welcome to Judging by the Cover, the gaming review show where I rate games that I have not played and I score them based on the store pages. Now, we are jumping into a new month and a new perspective and frame of reference for the settings we're going to go in. We had a little bit of a depressing month with Dystopian Month, followed by Back to Nature. So now that we've explored both dystopias and a return to nature, we're going to space. Because who doesn't like exploring space? With that, let's go ahead and jump right into our first space review of this month. Not Planet Crafter, the Planet Crafter. Pardon my misnomer over here in the video description here, but the Planet Crafter is a space survival open world. So open world with single or multiplayer where you are focusing on terraforming a game developed and published by Meiju Games, which my very brief non-professional research has shown to be a tiny studio of two developers, according to the Steam page. Once I click on their little dev name over there, where this seems to be the only game, and the DLCs for this also in there under their belt. But from what we're about to see, I've got some hopes for the studio, and especially considering that this was released in April of 2024, so it's been out for 2 years now, but they're still producing content for it in both the forms of DLC and free updates. It does tell us right here that Update 2.0 is available, which had apparently just come out in April of this year. So, 2 years into this, they're still making content. They're still releasing stuff for it in both paid DLC and free stuff. So, plenty there for people to enjoy. So, we're going to go ahead and flip things around. Before we get to the trailers and the screenshots, I want to jump to the about this game because I think we want to get a little frame of reference here from this before we jump into the rest of the review. So, first off, about this game, terraform an entire planet with 1 to 10 plus players, embark on a chill experience alone or with up to 10 plus friends on an online co-op. Your mission is to survive on a hostile planet and turn a barren land into a lush paradise. Terraforming is the only way. You go from hostile to habitable. You are sent to a hostile planet with one mission: make it habitable for humans. You'll have to survive, collect resources, build your base, produce machines to heat the planet, create an oxygen rich atmosphere, and eventually geoengineer an entire planet. Survive, collect, craft, explore. You gather minerals and resources to survive. Craft all the tools you need to fulfill your mission. Explore old shipwrecks and ruins and discover a planet full of mysteries. So, on top of just being a bit of a sandbox, they also do have some kind of a story or background for you to get invested in. Build your own base. You'll need a base and all sorts of machines to make yourself at home and be able to bring life to this planet. Progress through building tiers to upgrade and expand your base and explore the planet further. Bring life. See life forms appear on the planet as you terraform it by increasing heat, oxygen, and pressure. Witness the first signs of life with moss and insects and unleash the planet's full potential with thick forests and animals. And then there's several difficulty modes too, depending on how you like to play. From chill to hardcore, choose a difficulty level that suits you. Play with starting presets to create new games and experience endless possibilities. The key features include multiplayer, survive by yourself or with friends, 1 to 10 plus online co op. So that makes it sound like you can have more than 10 players together on your server or in your save, which honestly could be interesting to see. Like, have whole teams of people divided up and branch out some tasks and responsibilities. Oop, kicked a thing. Survival, you got thirst, oxygen, temperature, and health mechanics, of course, because you're on a very hostile planet. The environment is not friendly towards life in general, and you're there to fix that. Base building, shelter from a hostile environment and expand your exploration. Craft equipment, tools, and food to help you survive. Terraformation, turn an entire hostile planet to a habitable paradise, build machines to create atmospheric pressure and heat the planet, create a biosphere with breathable oxygen, see your environment change as your terraformation progresses. Creatures create life by decrypting and mixing DNA extracts and make your own animals. Okay, so there's some bioengineering going on with this too. Procedurally generated shipwrecks. Explore and find infinite rare loot. Infinite rare loot. Okay, well, if it's infinite, I mean, I guess rare drops, but like you can, depending on how far out you go, you can find a lot of different things. Chill experience with no violence. The only enemy you'll have to fight is the hostile environment. So that's kind of interesting. Like you don't have monsters or enemies to worry about, so no combat, but there's still the environmental factor. So that's kind of cool to see. Adjustable difficulty to fit your level, adjustable presets for renewed experiences through time, and a creative mode. So, if you want to take all that extra pressure out, go all balls to the wall in creative mode and make whatever kind of shenanigans, that they have fabricated and prefabbed in here. And they do have a lot of different purchase options for it too. So they do promise a lot with that. And with that, we're going to go ahead and peek into the trailers, which now two, we only have two trailers to really get into here, and they're not even that long. Our first one here is a minute and 20 seconds where they show the drop ship, your first contact on the planet, a couple of environments, the hostile and some beautiful environments. More ships, more of the base building, and what I'm guessing is more of a radar or scanning gun. Yeah, it seems to be like your mining tool as opposed to a weapon, even though it is kind of gun shaped. But it does seem to be like kind of your basic catch-all tool of sorts. They do show the base building and the speed up of that terraforming process, which is pretty cool to see. Although I'm wondering how fast it actually plays out in game. Like I feel like that's gonna be kind of something to figure. Is there like time skips or something of that sort? I can't really tell from the trailers or if that's just sped up. They do show multiple player characters on the screen. They show a bunch of the exotically alien looking wildlife and how everything is growing and springing up on the planet, which honestly does look beautiful. And that's just the first trailer. The second trailer is another 49 seconds showing, a brief little extra in there where they take out the narration and just kind of go in, terraform, show more of the structures, some large structures, and even boasting that the second trailer is one boasting a lunar update, which does not appear to be the 2.0 update. Surprisingly, the pattern that I usually see on Steam, where newer trailers are pushed first to the front of this timeline, they seem to have not done that. Where they stuck with the 1.0 trailer and then the Moons update once it was available. But the 2.0 trailer is actually not here on Steam. Once you get through those trailers, it does take us to these screenshots where we do see more of the wreckage, some looks like another drop ship coming down. We do see the base building going on, plant life, all the scanning and resource gathering, so much of the planet's beauty that terraform and craft to make it habitable for human life is kind of a cool process. On top of whatever other resource and machine work you have going on here, I could see this being an incredibly rewarding in both single player and multiplayer format, kind of like how Minecraft works that way, where you get a lot of fun playing with friends. Same with mini games of this variety, like Terraria or maybe No Man's Sky. I'm not as experienced with a game like No Man's Sky. We may be looking at that one later in the month. But at the very least, what we see here with Planet Crafter is promising. Now, there is a slight point of contention I have here with the fact that they did exclude the 2.0 update, but there is a trailer for it. You just have to actually go through the recent events and announcements where it apparently links to their YouTube channel where they put the 2.0 update to YouTube. But anyway, this without even having to go to the YouTube video, it does also tell us that there's new content, improved graphics, new features, improved performance and gameplay, and community requested features. So, feedback that the developers have taken from the community over the course of 2 whole years and implemented into the game shows that they are working with and communicating with their fan base and their player base. Now, on top of the game, there is also two DLCs and a soundtrack that can be purchased. The DLCs include Planet Humble and Toxicity, which are two separate whole planet DLCs. Now, the base game does seem, it seems like the base game has you going across maybe multiple planets, but at least one main planet for terraforming. I believe they called it Prime in some of these, in some of the information here. But for anybody out there curious, by all means, go check out the Planet Humble and the Toxicity DLCs as well. Those are what, $10 and $8 a piece on top of a $24 base game. So not not a painful cost for the DLC, considering that the DLC is actually acting like kind of like an expansion or a sequel of sorts, since it's adding whole planets with new biomes, new story, new lore, new things to discover. So they are adding quite a bit to the game with those DLCs. It's not like some $60 cosmetic package that you could have otherwise gotten for free, maybe in some other aspect. But no, they're giving you a lot of content for those things. So with that, we got to get into our breakdown and our review of what's going on here. Graphics. Now, the graphics, they do look good. By no means are these graphics as robust and hyper-realistic as, say, okay, we previously looked at Adorable Adventures. Now, Adorable Adventures is not space, but that game had some beautiful, like, very well crafted graphics, at least on the trailer and the screenshots, it looked that way, for how the game looks. This one, it does look more, not fully cartoonish like you get out of Minecraft's block structure, but some of the textures do seem a little more flat. But then again, that also means that the game should be able to run better on a larger variety of machines as opposed to relying on only the most robust graphical powerhouses. So it looks like it does look good. It looks more, I don't want to say it looks better than Minecraft, because sometimes that blocky aesthetic is an appeal to people. Like it can be a stylistic choice. But it looks like they had a good balance of stylized and realism in their settings here. Their graphics and their assets do look pretty well crafted. I do like the building structures, the way they have like the glass domes and everything that looks like a space colony from its early stages to its more highly developed stages. It does look good like that. Sound. The sound design, we do get just a little bit of it from a little bit of music here and there. And there is a soundtrack available, which tells me that the developers were confident enough in their soundtrack to go ahead and put it out there for an extra $6. Again, not a huge expense for something like that. If you're a person who likes some chill background music from games you enjoy, it is the kind of thing that you could throw on in the background and just kind of listen to as you go about your day, or while you're chilling or while you're at work and getting your stuff done. The gameplay, does look absolutely solid. And considering that the game has been getting updates and DLCs over those 2 years since it's released, it tells me that there's enough people playing it for these developers to keep working with it. So the gameplay seems to be very well received. It does look good. I There does seem to be a little bit of a lack of tools, considering the only thing we see in the trailers and the screenshots seems to be this like beam gun. But then again, we are in a very futuristic setting of terraforming a desolate wasteland of a planet. So I'm willing to throw some suspension of disbelief and say that this one tool is basically a catch-all for everything. Maybe like your tool upgrades probably just get wired and programmed into your machine or something like that. Well, I'd probably have to go and play it or find somebody's Let's Play series of it to really wrap my head around it and see what all's going on. I did only go in with, I gave this a look like 5 minutes before I started recording. So sue me. We're judging by the cover. That's what we do. That's our brand. For the UI and the menus, we don't see a whole lot of menu stuff, but we do see a little bit of the builds like popping up. I just wish we could maybe see a little bit more of the menu, like the crafting menu or item storage. We do see a little snippet of them here and there, so they're not completely absent from the promo materials here. Now, the pricing for the game. The base game at full price is $24, which for a game like this, it does look like the kind of game where if you really get into it, you can easily get as much, if not maybe more time out of it than you might with Minecraft, Terraria, Stardew Valley, things of that sort, where I would say that if a player enjoys games like those, this is probably the kind of thing they would enjoy, especially if they wish they could have like as an outer space aesthetic to those things. It does seem to provide at least that experience. So the $24 does seem like a very fair price. And jumping into the DLC, of course, we scroll down, we see the toxicity and the planet Humble. Now, there's each of these DLCs has its own trailer and its own screenshots and its own description, which go into a little bit of depth, saying, like, hey, you get a new planet, new story. The toxicity showcases a planet that had been industrialized, and you're coming in and cleaning up some of the waste and toxic refuse that seems to have been left behind on the planet, and discovering, the old facilities and seeing what happened there, which honestly could be an entirely new interesting way to play it. And then Planet Humble is basically just a new planet to terraform, with its own biomes, environments, its own setting, its own mysteries to unlock. And the Planet Humble even says in the description that you have the option to either start a new save and start with Planet Humble, or once you've terraformed Planet Prime, so what seems like the first primary world that you're working on, then you can go ahead and travel to Planet Humble to continue your work within that same save. So you do have some options for how you want to play the DLC on top of everything else. Honestly, that is a really cool angle to take this. And the fact that it is collectively $18 for both of the DLCs, that means that, you're paying, if you were to buy everything separately, you're paying close to double the price of the game to add those extra planets. But the extra planets do seem to offer quite a bit of game on top of what you already have. So it's not an entirely unwelcome thing, especially because that almost double price comes from both games. Now, if you did not already buy the base game, then you don't have to buy everything else separately, there is there's multiple bundles you can buy this in, but there's two particular bundles that give you the DLCs packaged together. There's the Galactic Terraformer Edition, which you get everything for an extra 10% discount. And then there's the Planet Crafter Deluxe Bundle, which is the same thing. It's both DLCs and the soundtrack together, also 10% off. I did the math and everything seems to check out, so that you're, instead of paying 24 and 18 for $42, you're paying 37, just under $38 for the thing. Now that is US dollars. I know other currencies, because international audiences might have their own exchange rates and everything, but less than $40 for a game that looks like it can offer a lot of value, whether you're single player or multiplayer, can be an incredible thing for this game. So the pricing, I will say, does seem very fair. I find no fault in how it's priced with their DLC. They don't seem to be overly predatory or exorbitant with that. And I do appreciate that they do have recent updates of, what they've been working on and what they are doing with their community. Then one of the things even says with the 2.0 update, if you experience issues, check your mods because this is the kind of game where players are going to be modding the shit out of the game. And player communities, I've seen them do incredibly creative things with mods. And anybody that's seen my Stardew Valley series probably has an idea of what I'm talking about with that. Um, I I haven't looked at other stores to see what's on here, and it's a little late in the review for me to try and retroactively pull that stuff up. But if this is available on other platforms as well, I could see that being an incredible thing, especially handheld platforms. Planet Crafter. It's on the Steam. Let's see what other. I'm not really seeing much in the way of other platforms to go with. It does seem to be primarily on Steam. Yeah, Windows and GeForce Now. So yeah, it does seem a little limited for how many platforms it's released on. You can get it on Steam or GOG.com or all those kinds of things. So you have options on where to buy it. But it is the kind of game where I could see myself enjoying if it were to release on Switch. Now, if you have a Steam Deck, that's Steam Deck is basically Nintendo Switch, but for your PC games. And if it runs on the Steam Deck, then that'd be absolutely awesome. You could play it on the go, on handheld, especially if you're doing single player. You don't have to worry about being connected to internet. But then if you can play with friends, I would even appreciate like just hanging out with a bunch of friends in a room together. If we all have like our own handheld devices while we're working together and conversing, or online through Discord, either way would be an incredibly cool experience to just kind of get to have that long-term save with some friends. I've tried doing that, but sometimes it can be hard to schedule. But if you get a group of people together, this is the kind of game that I feel like a whole group could very thoroughly enjoy together. And honestly, for players who enjoy those kinds of experiences, that's exactly the kind of audience I would recommend this to based on what the store page is selling to me. And no, I'm not trying to make a sales pitch or convince people to buy this game. This is just something that, a friend of mine had suggested that I look at. A buddy, Flamed Ezra, had pointed me in the direction of looking at some of these space games and seeing just kind of what other things there are to offer. And that's a part of this whole process is just to just see and just kind of expose ourselves to these new kinds of things. So with that, I do want to get into a final score for the game. Now, I don't want to say it's completely flawless. The store page is very well represented. The pricing is fair. Even, I'm not even doing this review when it's on sale or anything. And it does have other bundles available if you want just the base game and maybe another game that's spun off from somewhere in a similar kind of space theme. So you do have plenty of options for how you purchase, and you have a lot of ways to play. I I do wish that 2.0 trailer was here on the Steam store page instead of having to go and hunt it down on YouTube. And another thing is that when it comes to multiplayer, a multiplayer game would require that you have people to play with. Now, I know there's probably always the stipulation of, oh, go on a Discord group or a subreddit dedicated to the game. You can probably find players that are very dedicated to playing this on constant. But at the same time, I feel like you would get even more enjoyment if you're playing with close friends, if you have a group of gaming buddies. But then, getting that group to play together requires schedules to sync up and it requires every one of them to purchase the game. That could be a little bit of a hindrance if your gaming buddies maybe aren't interested or aren't into this type of game. But at the same time, I don't want to discredit the game too much for those things. Those are just kind of little factors that very much are more on the player's personal needs, lifestyle, friendships, and connections, and how they enjoy things. Not so much on the developer. So with that, I think Planet Crafter is going to get a very favorable rating of 7 out of 10. I do wish that we could see a little bit more of the a little bit more of the crafting and building menus across the trailers. And I do wish that we had that 2.0 trailer. That's probably the biggest thing that's holding me back from raising this. Although I do appreciate that they kept that 1.0 launch trailer at the forefront of the store page on Steam. And I do appreciate that finding that 2.0 trailer, while it's not here on Steam, it's not difficult to get to. It is there in the updates that we could scroll down to. Um, so with that, like I said, 7 out of 10. It's a good store page. It is a game that if I had the time and dedication to it, like I have played a lot of Minecraft, I've played a lot of Terraria, I've played a lot of Stardew Valley, both solo and with friends. And this is the exact kind of game that I would appreciate playing with friends. It does look like it has its own sense of discovery and mechanical stuff. Plus, it looks like it also offers a very plentiful and robust single player promised experience. Like, you don't necessarily need to play with people. Being a sole lone explorer in this world it looks like it can be very rewarding. Now, for people who have played this game or who are actively playing this game, you can tell me that I'm full of shit, or let me know if you think that I maybe got something right in this analysis just based on what I'm seeing on the store page. Again, this is judging by the cover, where we review the games that we don't play. And I know we've all got different opinions. I do appreciate, opinions and feedback coming my way, for especially the ones that let me know, like, hey, yeah, you're a dumbass and don't know what you're talking about here. It's like, that's completely fair. I am going off of entirely what I see here and maybe drawing some comparisons to other games that I have played or that I have seen or watched more of. But it does look like an interesting game, and even if I don't personally find the time to go and buy and play this myself, I could see some interesting stories and gameplay videos of other people, like other content creators doing this. Like, people have done that with other games of this sort. There have been people that did like Minecraft multiplayer servers or Minecraft hardcore episode series, where players would set goals and basically play characters and tell stories. I could see players doing incredibly creative things with this game along that same vein. And honestly, thinking about that does make me kind of wonder, like, even if I don't go to play the game myself, I could see online content creators having a blast making those kinds of things and giving viewers those kinds of experiences through the stories and the character dynamics that they tell in these settings. And I do appreciate games that can do that. Um, I do hope that Miju Games, that they continue to see some success. They've apparently had some success over the last couple years, as again, they've released these DLCs, they've made enough money from it to sustain themselves and keep going, and have this whole 2.0 free update, not even a paid update for that, in addition to the paid DLCs for whole extra planets. I could even see maybe another, 3, 4, 5 DLCs over the course of several years, if they pace themselves and, maybe don't release them too close together, and really makes like expand and give it like this robust expanded universe to the game. It does seem like that very expandable type of game, where a lot of times I can see DLC jacking up a game's quote unquote full price to more than double the base price of the game. But as long as they are consistently giving the game enough content to justify it, I could even see them successfully releasing stuff like that. Or in the future, maybe make like a comprehensive edition of the game that I've seen other games do. Like the Atelier series does that with some of their series, where you get like this collection that has all previous DLC included in a definitive edition. That could be a cool thing to see for Planet Crafter, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, as games move on to other platforms. Maybe they're in motion to try and get their game on other platforms. That would be kind of cool to see, especially if they can do some cross-platform play. I know not all games with online capability have cross-platform play, or if it's bound to like kind of how Stardew does with the game save being on the host player's world, like the host player system, if it's like that instead of a server world. Either way, I could see a lot of fun coming out of this. And for anybody out there who is playing, again, let me know what you think. I am actually curious about seeing what kind of other content people have made around this game and what kind of experiences people have had with this. Anyway, this is Judging by the Cover. Thank you for joining us on our first foray into Space Month. We have another 4 weeks to go for this, so we are going to be getting a little wild for our next one.